Alright guys, well, welcome back to the channel. I should not have been so eager to put up a update video on my truck saying that it's been a good truck. No, it's really not that big of a deal. Kind of just an inconvenience, but as you'll probably see from the short that I posted, the day after I made that video, I got this light on my dash. So anyways, I'm here, TLG Peterbilt. I've got some parts here. My cousin, he works here in the parts department. He works in the service area, working on our trucks. And so I was asking him what he thinks it could be, and from the sounds of it, it's pretty. And from everywhere else I've talked to, I'm not going to lay the full weight of it on him or anything, and I'm taking responsibility if it doesn't work. But the odds are, it is a quality. It is a quality / level sensor that failed me, and that can be caused, especially if I don't have the updated brass or the updated coolant valve for it. So I got the updated coolant valve, and we're going to go install it today. I don't know if I'll get much footage doing that, because I don't like to bother other people with putting them on camera, because I'm going to have some help doing it, but also I'll be, we'll have our hands full. But we've got access to the Davy 4 system, so we can, because it's in D-rate. Luckily, I got home right after it went to D-rate. What happened was, it happened right after I got DEF out of Sheetz. I was all happy about getting $2.50 a gallon DEF at Sheetz, and 20 miles down the road, I get the code. I get first off, I get a code for a level sensor issue, and then I get codes, and that's when it derated. I got codes for DEF quality, and the quality and the level sensors are all built into the same assembly, which is what this elongated box is for. We're just going to replace both of those, and to err on the side of caution, we're going to drain the DEF that I just filled, 16 gallons worth of DEF. We're going to drain the DEF and put in fresh DEF out of the box, the blue DEF, and that way, hopefully it'll help with the system, and we'll just have to see. Obviously there's other things that it could be, but if I wait around for a shop, I'm going to lose out on some runs, and it's just going to make it it's going to wreak havoc on the whole schedule and everything. So this is what you got to do. You got to do this whenever you own a business and you run a truck. And I will say that's one disadvantage to having customer freight. I mean, it's well worth it, but when you have customer freight, you've got to do what you got to do to keep your truck moving. When you're on the spot market, just call the broker and say, hey, sorry man, I can't do it. It's unless you work with that broker religiously, it's not really going to be. You're not going to be severing or burning any bridges necessarily, but you got to keep the trucks rolling when you got a dedicated customer to work for. So we're going to try to get that, and hopefully then we'll clear the D-rate. I'll take it for a test drive, and hopefully the code doesn't come back. Mother of God. All right, so we're here at the truck right now. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot you got to do. I got to take off the fairing, and I got to go ahead and kind of tilt the tank so we can get to the back of it so we can take the sensor out. The important thing is having that Davy 4 so we can delete the D-rate, so we can derate the D-rate. So we'll go ahead and get that fairing taken off of here. I had this fairing off yesterday just so I could get to the batteries better. I was going to try to reset it because I thought, well, maybe because it had something to do with the level sensor, and I just filled up my DEF tank, and I was thinking, okay, well, maybe, just maybe, it kind of shocked the level sensor in some way, shape, or form. So that's why I got the level sensor code. But that wasn't the case, apparently. But so what I did, I wanted to go ahead and kind of reset the system. And because I don't have a battery kill switch on this truck, I had to find the main power cord to the battery, the main power cable, and disconnect it. And I let it disconnect for about 5 minutes. And but the problem is there's so many darn cables under here. You know, it's got this little access panel right here, but it's so it's kind of difficult to get to everything. I was hoping I could make a little bit more room by taking the fairing off, but it really didn't help a whole lot either. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get these fairings off of here and get that started up and go from there. All right, well, I'm getting the fairing off here. I've never taken the fairing off of this truck, so I'm just kind of learning what bolts you take off. You know, like the least amount of bolts you got to take off to remove the fairing, because there's all sorts of bolts along the bottom and the top. But I think I was making it a little bit harder on myself than I needed to. It looks like I just unscrewed a few bolts from the bottom where it mounts to the bottom of the tank on the back, and it looks like the rest of it you just kind of slide out. Looks like right here it's got a little lock here that kind of, like, you twist it and then it lines up with those little notches right in like here and here, and then it should just kind of pull right out when it lines up with those notches. As you can see, it's right here, out, with an arrow pointing that way. I thought I was going to take off this whole bracket right here, but looks like I should just be able to take or twist that to line up with those notches, because they line up perfectly with the flanges. And I should be able to pull it out that way. And I'm guessing that right there is probably, that's just a rubber. That's just rubber. So I'm going to guess it will slide out of there once I get the back off. Yeah, so I mean, I figure I got to take the back off first. And then I already took off that. Now see, I think I went too far. Because I went ahead and see how this is the exact same part as on the front. I went ahead and took this part completely off. I don't know that I really needed to do that, because here's the flange that was mounted to the bracket. I'll show you on the passenger side what it looks like when it's all put together. Yeah, you see, it's yeah, I took this whole bracket right here. I took that all off on mine, on the driver's side. But it looks like you really just gotta, well, maybe you do have to take that whole thing off. That doesn't really twist. So either way, it's pretty simple. So we're working on her. It's a learning process. And we'll go ahead and get this fairing off of here. And then I need to wait for some extra hands to work on tilting the tank and all that good stuff. So we're getting her. All right, we're good. You just want to be careful not to scratch up the fairing, unless you have one of those matte black fairings. But just want to be careful not to scratch up the fairing when you're setting it on the ground. And yeah, we have access. The problem will be right back here somewhere. I'm gonna have to, the hard part's gonna be doing the def tank, because I got 16, I mean the tank is full now, so we're gonna drain it. But anyways, as far as taking off that fairing goes, yeah, you just take it, I mean I showed you with it on already, but you just kind of took the bolt out of that bracket, and it literally just, I don't think it was supposed to slide out of this. I think this thing is supposed to come out. Yeah, see, it comes out like that, and then you stick it in. But it looks to me like last time somebody was in here, they broke it and maybe kind of made it easier. And then see, it locks in when you twist it that way, pulls out, locks in. So it's really a pretty simple design, a lot more simple than I was making it. I was looking for like every single bolt, but really in some of these cases it's not even a bolt design. You just unlock a little mechanism like that and it slides out. So we got all that off. All right, good to go now. You really don't need an impact wrench. I got the impact wrench out just to speed up a couple of the bolts, but yeah. First I tried to take out those 2 bolts, and then I realized all you got to do is take that one out, and then it'll just slide right out of that bracket. Really a pretty ingenious design for time savings. Whether you take it to the shop or you do it yourself, time is money. So that's a pretty good design. I'll give Peterbilt props on that. Oh, and look what I found. I did not realize it would be back here. But look at this. On, off. On, off. Now read the dang description. Disconnecting battery power. So there's the darn on-off switch for the batteries. I've never had a truck or even driven a truck that had them clear back here behind the cab, the switch. They've always been either in the battery box or like Cascadia does it right up there beside the driver's seat on the inside. But I'll take it. That's awesome. I'll go ahead and flip it off now. It blends in, you know, when you're doing everything. It doesn't look like when you're doing your pre-trip, walking around the truck, it doesn't look like much. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. It blends in with everything too well. And when you're looking at it from this angle, you know, like this, it just looks like part of the bracket. So cool. It's pretty good. So that made my day right there. I'm glad to know that I have that on here. So we'll go ahead and turn it off, I guess, and let it rest. I mean, it's going to be, you know, we'll have to have it off anyway. Well, I was going to disconnect the battery, but we'll have to have it off anyway when we're, you know, messing with that, the wiring harness and everything. So that's what one thing I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's not the wiring harness. There is a possibility of that. So, I mean, we'll see. But these sensors, these level sensors are so commonly known to fail. And apparently, just so you know, there is, well, I showed it to you when I picked the parts up. There's that updated coolant valve. And we're going to see if I have that on here. If I do, I'll just take that one back. But if I don't, we'll go ahead and update it. And apparently, that valve alone can burn up the level sensor, or the quality / level sensor. They're both in the same assembly. So that can burn it up if the valve isn't operating correctly. So like I said, that's a very, very, very common issue. So hopefully that's all it is, and we'll see. All right, so we got everything taken apart, but I need to drain the tank too. I'd hoped that there'd be some sort of a drain plug somewhere on there, but there's not. Maybe it has to do with the fact it's a plastic tank, and I don't know, maybe a plastic drain plug with a plastic tank might just not be a good idea. I don't know. Or a metal drain plug for that matter with a plastic tank. I don't know, but either way, they don't have a drain on there. So I got to go pick up a pump, and that dang tank is 27 gallon. I had no idea how big that tank was. 27 gallon tank. So I'm gonna have to find some buckets too. That's a big tank. Like I said, I just filled that tank up. It took 16 gallons, and it was down in the red. It had just gotten into the red on the gauge. But it only took 16 gallons. So apparently when it gets into the red, maybe it's sort of a fail-safe, like a dummy proof kind of thing. Even though it was in the red, it still must have had 11 gallons left. That's crazy. So I just can't believe that's a 27 gallon tank, but it says on the bottom of the tank 27 gallons. I thought I found what was possibly a drain plug. It looked like one, but it must not be. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and go get a pump and do it that way. Yay. Buy a truck, they said. It'll be fun, they said. That's not fun. This probably doesn't look right from that angle. Well, I had a little bit of an oopsie. Hopefully it's not a big oopsie. But I used the siphoning pump here. Yeah, this guy here. And, well, you can see there's just one hose connected to it now. The other hose fell off the end on the tank end. And it's now floating. Not floating, it's now in the tank. So yeah, I'm hoping that it'll be fine. There's no way to really, well, he did say I could pull the header off, and I might pull the header off and get the hose out if the tank's, we're going to be working on the tank anyway. But yeah, yeah, that sucks. So that's a bummer. But I got about 15 gallons of DEF out before that happened, so we got quite a bit out. But we're going to finish the job up, and hopefully I can get it out. If not, hopefully it's not the end of the world. There was a part that I forgot to take off that makes it easier to get to the DEF tank strap bolts to loosen, so I'll show you that part. Oh, it's kind of extra on the fairing. Basically it's that, but it goes over there where those brackets are. Just helps to minimize the area for wind to get in there between the fairing and the cab when you're going down the road. Helps with fuel mileage. That's all that is. So and of course when everything's put together, it gives it kind of a cleaner look. But yeah, I forgot to take that off initially, so now that that's off, it'll be easier to access the bolts for the straps, which are right there and there. But yeah, once you loosen those straps, all you do is tilt the tank forward or towards you, so the top comes towards you, and you'll have access to the sensor, the header, all that stuff, all of that assembly back there. Now, I don't have to take the header off. I mean, I do for my circumstance, because I was a dummy and let that tube fall in the tank. But with this job, particularly with this job, you don't have to take the header off. If you're just changing on a 2020, it's just a one assembly for the quality and level sensor. Now I think a 17 and older, I think that is like the whole header you got to replace, I think. But after that, they kind of updated the design, made it a little simpler and cheaper. That way you don't have to replace the entire header. All right, so all I gotta do is loosen those straps, and we're gonna tilt that tank forward. That's right, guys. No more SCR fault. I'm here at the yard right now. I'm gonna get in my pickup truck, and we'll tell you about it. We'll tell you what I had to do and what we had to do, and all the fun stuff that was involved with this, and the mistakes that I made, and the lessons that I learned, and yeah, we'll just talk about it here. Let me get this. Like I said, let me go ahead and move my pickup out of my spot so I can put this big boy in there, and we'll get to talking about it. Anyways, guys, so we got the truck fixed. Definitely glad that we got it fixed on the day of. I would have lost out on a run, and that would have been no good. But we got it going, and I've got a cousin that works at the Peterbilt dealer here in Cincinnati, and he was actually able to read the codes remotely for my truck, and that's how I knew what the part was I needed. It was still not 100% certainty that it was a def quality like a def quality sensor that failed. But from what he was saying, it was from the codes he saw, there was a good 99% chance, and the other percent was the possibility of a bad wiring harness. So nobody could get the truck in that day. I called several shops, nobody could do it. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, of course the dealer was a few days behind, and yes, the truck is under warranty, and I'll explain again why I did not utilize the warranty. I went ahead and went and got the parts, and apparently, just FYI, if you have a truck around the same year as mine, 2020, you know, newer too also, and you have an issue with the def leveling / quality sensor, because they're all, like I showed, they're all in the same assembly. If you have an issue with those parts, with those sensors, and you get those codes, and the part's faulty, make sure to if you bought the truck used, check to see if the coolant valve for the def is the updated coolant valve. As I think I explained it too earlier in the video, when I picked the parts up, there's an updated coolant valve. So I went ahead and bought that, and sure enough, mine had not been updated. So I was glad I got that. So anyways, we had those two parts, and they came out together to be just under $700. And then I had to buy some other knickknacks here and there to make what I needed done work, you know, right here in the parking lot. And so what I did was I had to go buy some buckets, because I had to siphon out the old def, just in case the def itself was bad. I mean, I could have bought a def quality kit, tester kit, you know, but I just went ahead and just replaced it. I siphoned it out, and I bought some buckets, and that thing's got a 27-gallon tank, so that took some doing. But then here's where mistake number one happened. I did not pay attention to the hose on the siphon. I did not pay attention to the hose that was in the tank closely enough. Like I was for a while, but not towards the end when I started to, it wasn't even towards the end. I was only halfway done, but I went to go pull the hose out for whatever reason, and it had lost its grip on the siphon pump, and the hose fell into the def tank.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Yeah, that wasn't good at all. I was like, all right, well, this kind of sucked. We ended up just siphoning out the rest with the pump, but no second hose. But we were able to make it work. So anyways, we basically siphoned all but like 5 gallons out. But at first we tried to pull the tank out with like 12 gallons still in there. That wasn't happening. That was heavier than hell. My boss and I, we could not get it. Like, we had the straps. I didn't videotape anything after, you know, like anything any further on than, you know, what the last scene was, because my battery on my phone was just too low, and I didn't want it to completely go dead. So anyways, we could not get that darn tank off of the bracket, because we needed to pull the tank completely away from the truck so that we could get the quality sensor out, right? So we could not get it to budge. So we siphoned out some more, and we're still having issues. And then my cousin offered to come up and help. And he does this stuff every day. So he came up, and he he got under there, and he had that tank out from the truck in like 5 minutes. And I pulled the head, the def head. I pulled that out of the tank, and then there's a big, nice big opening. I was able to just reach in and grab the hose that had fallen into the tank. So I got that. I was able to recover that hose, and then we put the head back in, and then the new sensor back in. And we were supposed to have, we had asked to have the day before, which is the hardware, the software used on PACCARs. We at the Penske here, they don't have it at this location where we park, but the one down just across the river in Kentucky has it. And they were supposed to bring that up here so that we could use it on my truck to clear the D-rate. They failed. They neglected to bring it up. My cousin said, okay, well, let's just let the thing idle for a little while and see what happens. There's a chance that idling it without the software or anything, just idling it for a while, it may cycle enough that it will clear the code. So we did, and we let it idle for like an hour, and nothing happened. We're like, all right. So then he offered, he's like, all right, well, let's just go to the dealer, and we'll use my day before there, and then we'll go ahead and clear it. So as soon as we get in the truck, we climb into the truck to go down to the dealership, the code goes away. So it was actually gone. I was like, all right, sweet. That's great news. The truck is good to go, and that code never came back, knock on wood. So that's good, very good. I'm happy that that's done. So I'm like, all right, well, I'd been up all day working on the darn truck. Well, I had to get on the road and go to Jersey. I was hoping for just a event-free night on the road. I stopped to get some fuel and turn my headlights off. And then I, get the fuel, get back in the truck, turn the lights on. Boom. I got a low bulb fault on my dash.
I'm like, come on, man.
I've had issues with the driver's side light. I've had to replace a wiring harness on there. So I looked at that light and it was out. I'm like, okay. And then I just glanced at the passenger side. I wasn't even thinking that they both would be out. Well, sure enough, both lights were out. I'm like, you're kidding me. And somehow it ended up being that the passenger side had a legitimately burnt out bulb, but the driver's side was another bad harness. I'm like, man. So I had one spare bulb, and I went to the TA just 2 exits up the road, and like I was able to get the driver's side light to work kind of, by angling the harness, the plug a little bit differently. And I got up to the TA, and they, I parked it in the fuel lane. Again, it's early morning, so nobody's in the fuel lanes. And there's nowhere else I could park anyway. Go inside, and they have the H11 harness that I need. So I buy that. I buy new bulbs, come out there, and I replace the wiring harness again, and both bulbs. So I have 2 fresh new bulbs in the headlights. And I did not use the cheap general lights or whatever they're called at TA. They actually had some expensive Philips light bulbs. They were $50 for the pair. Much better than the generic ones that TA usually carries. No more issue with the lights yet. The lights, that was good. I'm like, all right, sweet, let's get back on the road. Well, I get back on the road, I drive 100 miles. I'm like, all right, I gotta get a nap. So I stop and take a quick 2-hour nap. I was on a get-on ramp, so I wanted to leave my parking lights on, but I turned on the APU to make sure, even though just running your LED parking lights for 2 hours should not be enough to discharge the battery to the point that it has trouble starting, right? But I used the APU to keep the system charged. I went to start the truck up when I woke up, and it barely started. I mean, it cranked really, really slow. And it even clicked once, and then it sprang to life, and it cranked right, and it started. I'm like, okay, well, that sucked, but I tallied it up to, somehow the LED lights on the running lights just couldn't, I don't know, just didn't stay charged for whatever reason enough to start. So I'm like, I won't do that again. So I get to Jersey, and I get to the first stop, and it's a live unload, only 2 skids to pull off, 2 or 3 to pull off the trailer. So I turned the truck off, not even thinking about this being a possibility again. After only 15 minutes, and I had nothing running, no anything running. So I turned it off 15 minutes. I was good to go. Went to start it. Same thing, but even worse. Took even longer to start. And when it finally did start, it threw a check engine light. Like the MIL light, the light that's actually shaped like an engine. It threw that light. And I'm like, come on. What the heck? And I'm sure some of you that, you're probably going through your head right now. And this is probably registering with you too. The last video I put out was about how good my truck had been doing for me. I'm never doing that again. That was the other lesson I'm learning. And I've learned that lesson before, multiple times. But this time, I don't know why. I don't know why I thought it'd be any different, but I spoke highly of my truck. And all of this started happening. I'm like, gosh. Anyway, so I didn't want to shut it off anymore after that. And I still had to go drop the trailer off somewhere else and pick up an empty trailer to go back with. And I was going to take my 10-hour break where I dropped that trailer off. And for the first time ever, I just let the truck idle all night while I slept. Normally, I'd shut it off and I ran the APU, but this time I let the truck run. So anyways, again, I called my cousin the next day, asked him to look up the codes. They're not showing on their end this time, on their remote. I'm like, okay. I get to the dealer and they run the code. And I'd shut the truck off while I was there to test it. And ever since then, the truck started fine. It started like it should. I'm going to say that. It started like it should. And it has started like it should ever since, every time. But they looked at the code and it had said something about the truck being powered down incorrectly. Well, if you remember earlier in the video, was the first time I had just found my kill switch on the truck, right? Remember I pointed out that, oh my God, I've got a kill switch on here. I just found it. I didn't know I had this on my truck. We determined that it was something to do with the kill switch. And so I'm just not using the kill switch anymore. Like I said, that was the first time we'd ever used the kill switch. And it just happened to be that night that the starter and everything, and that just started happening, And we cleared the code that was on there with the day before, and it's been acting like it should ever since. All right, so just a little bit of an update here. While I was editing this, I figured I'd throw this in there, just let you guys know that it was not the kill switch, because this is about a week later or so. It was not the kill switch, because after I thought it was all good to go, it really wasn't. And it started doing the same thing again, and I swore it was a starter, because at one point when I started it, it sounded like the Bendix gear was not engaging all the way. So I'm like, all right, cool, starter issues. So, I took it to a shop near me called Upper Valley Truck Center, and they were able to look at it right away, and a couple loose battery cables and some corrosion. Those battery cables were loosened by yours truly when I tried to reset the code before I realized I had the kill switch. And I just didn't tighten them enough. I thought I did. I thought I reached back there and made sure they were nice and tight, but like I said, they're really hard to reach, and I must not have spent enough time making sure they were tight. So, wasn't the kill switch. Kill switch is good still. Just a couple bad connections on the battery. Figured I'd just put it out there. Anyway, back to the originally scheduled video. Didn't pop up another code. So hopefully it was just a hiccup in the system when we used that kill switch. But we'll just keep going with it and see. So that's basically that's how it's played out ever since since then. Now I will give Sheets absolute credit. I called Sheets when it happened. When I thought there was a good possibility, and there still is a possibility, that it was caused by bad def. That could have damaged the sensor. Too much water in the def, it could have shorted out the sensor. So so I talked to Sheets, and they helped me out. Actually helped me out. They ended up sending me to, or they had me call the Sheets headquarters, whatever. Called them. I had absolutely no expectations. I basically just called the Sheets where I got the fuel originally, or the def originally, to let them know, hey, you might have some bad def. I want you to know before too many other truck drivers suffer the same fate that I suffered, and are out possibly far worse than I was. So I did not expect any reimbursement whatsoever. So anyway, and it still hasn't been determined if I'm going to get reimbursement, but they're still working with me. It's now Friday, and this all happened Sunday, and they're still working with me. I actually talked to a representative of Sheets yesterday, and she wants me to send in the receipts for the parts that I bought, in correspondence with the problem I had, possibly related to their def. So, and then they're going to go over it, and from there they'll decide if they're going to reimburse me for anything. But even just the fact that they're going as far as they are surprises the hell out of me. So, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I've got the receipts in the console here, so I got to take a picture of those and email them in, which I guess I'll probably do right after I end this video. But that's where we are now. I'm just home right now. Well, I'm in the truck right now, the pickup, and then I got to go to a doctor's appointment. But yeah, it's been an interesting week, to say the least. I've still got another run to do tonight. I'm still just amazed that Sheets is even willing to work with me on this. So we'll just have to, like I said, I got to send in the receipts and see what they say. Of course, I'm just going to send in the receipts for the parts. All the other crap, I'm not even going to bring in the fact that I had to dump out the def and buy new def. I had to buy a couple jugs of the blue def just for the high quality, the high quality, level, I guess you can call it, of the def, with the blue. So I bought 2 jugs of that, and then I filled the rest up at a Love's. But I had to buy buckets. I had to buy the siphon pump. Overall, everything was said and done, I spent over $1,000 on everything. But this is how you got to look at it in business. That $1,000 that I spent made me $1,700, or somewhere around there. Made me $1,500, somewhere around there. It made me, I forget exactly what this run pays. But by me doing that, and not waiting for the warranty to be able to do it, it made me more money, by paying for the parts and doing it myself, as opposed to, waiting for the dealership to have an opening and possibly losing two rounds, depending on when they could get me in. So I would have had to wait for the dealership, and I would have lost out on even way more money. So you've got to weigh, you've got to weigh out your options in that situation. And it made more sense to just buy the parts. Now it was a gamble, because what if those parts were not the cause? What if I put it all back together and it still didn't work right? Well, that was the gamble. Then I would have been out the cost of the parts and the downtime. So it was a gamble. It definitely was a gamble, but that's what business is, right? You've got to gamble. That's what everything you do is a gamble. It really is, because you could either lose every decision you make pertaining to business. You will either lose money or you will make money. There's really, and to me, breaking even is losing money, because you have lost that time that you've lost the time to, that you could have been making the money, and now you've just broken even. And to me, that's, to me, you've just lost money if you're breaking even. So you've got to make money in order for it to count. And that's just kind of how, that's just where I am on it. But that's why bought the parts instead of warrantied it. I had to do that with my Cascadia when I first bought it, because I just bought it and the starter went out and it was still under the factory warranty, but the dealership that I was at said it was going to be several days, and I'm like, you know, that's money out of my pocket right there, you know. So I paid for the starter, and I had an outside vendor put the starter in. So you just got to do what you got to do sometimes. Excuse me. But anyways, guys, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get off here and carry on the rest of my day. You guys all have a good one out there. Keep surviving to thrive. And hope you guys are staying safe, and hope you guys are staying financially afloat. We will see you all later. Take care.